Hey everybody, welcome to Dose Town. So today I'm just gonna go over a VOD from a playtest session that we had, just the Reno guys. So this is me and Kevin playing a Doflamingo Mirror. Just trying to get some more practice in it. It's kind of my first time like reviewing games, so hopefully it goes well. Like this is definitely just like a work in progress. The lighting and the camera are a little shaky because the way we have it set up, so it's something that will improve in the future. So just bear with it for now. Kevin goes first and opens a Sengoku and picks up a Teach. Me going second, not ideal to open a buggy. You really want to open like a more value one drop here, like Perona or Sengoku, right, to set up your stack just a little bit deeper and like pick up any missing pieces of like Jinbei or whatever, right? The mirror is definitely more about picking up control of the board and then speeding up the game and ending from there as you slowly get more control, and then making it so like bounce law doesn't matter if they're at like one life, for example. So here I pick up a gravity blade trigger and bottom his Weevil that he plays, but in retrospect this is like a really big mistake, but it makes for a very interesting game. The gravity blade definitely should have bottomed the Teach instead of the Weevil, because then but I felt that with my play lined up here, which was Teach, play Jinbei, play Law, bounce my buggy, bounce his Teach, or no, I believe it's bounce my Jinbei, bounce his Teach, so I can play Jinbei Boa next turn. That it would give me a good control of the board, but really like sending this 8k swing at the Weevil body and bottom decking his Teach so he has to find another one was just a much better play for sure. Let's see. From here, like his 5-Don is a little awkward because the Teach is not already established on board, so it's a little bit harder to generate two bodies on board. So it's definitely something to worth thinking about, like what you can do. But I think he has Teach, so he has Teach and a Jinbei. So he opts to hard play the Teach, and you can see that he has Jinbei in hand. I think the better way to approach this in retrospect is to play the Jinbei, to play the Teach, and then using the Teach effect to play a different body rested, right? So, but the other caveat about it is that if you looked at his hand and you kind of saw it, he has a Gecko Moria in his hand, which makes Jinbei being sideways a little bit better. So like you can direct swings at the Jinbei, let it die, play Moria on his 7-Don to pick up the Jinbei again, which is pretty good. So here he opts to go Jinbei, play Law to bounce my Teach, which I think is very good because it puts the player going second is generally at a disadvantage if both players open like a Teach and a solid play on their 5-6, because that's hard to put two bodies on board, right? So here like it puts me on needing to have Boa to play two bodies out, but here thankfully I know I have the Jinbei in hand, so I can play Jinbei, Teach, and then put something else on top with the Jinbei, right? Swinging 6 at the Jinbei here because I know I'll have extra Dawn with this play, and then going Jinbei, play Teach, Teach effect, put probably Bounce Law on top, which would be ideal, going 7 at the Jinbei and then bouncing the Teach again, right? Trying to make sure that his hand is not nearly as flexible with the Teach on board, and that because we both have not seen our the stack at the top of our deck yet. So 7 at the Jinbei here after he countered 6 at it, and then bouncing his Teach to hand, right? So making it so he has to reestablish it, which is sometimes a little awkward, but here usually is very clean. Like it's another opportunity to cleanly establish Jinbei, because it lines up where you can play 4, pay 2 for the Teach, and then yeah. Gecko Moria here in this mirror happened to be very, very good because he kept grabbing Jinbei, and it's very good for situations like this, very scrappy board states. He goes 7, plays the Jinbei that he grabbed, plays Law again, and then thinking about how to bounce. If it's his only bounce Law, it's very good here sometimes to grab it back so he can keep it for later. Bouncing my Teach, 7 at my board. It's his only swing, but the counter in my hand is a little bit awkward here. You see that I have a Sengoku, 2K, 2K. I don't really want to give two 2Ks, and I don't want to give my Sengoku or my Law or my Teach, so I have to let this go. If I had one more card there that I was willing to give up, then it would be fine to counter there just to have board presence, and so that way I could get some pressure at his lead. But sadly, it's just not the way things work out. So Sengoku here, trying to find like a Moria or a Jinbei here. There I see two Jinbeis, so grab one. Teach probably. Oh, interesting. I went thinking about paying 4 to maybe play Bounce Law or Jinbei to make something interesting happen here. Clear up space on my board probably to get more value. But 5 from my Jinbei to his. And then paying 4, playing Jinbei, playing Law, probably bouncing Law, and it's probably a little bit better here to bounce actually just both my 1-drops here, or go to make space on this board, or bounce 1-1-drop to bounce his Teach. But here I go bounce Law, bounce Buggy to play Teach and make room, right? Just get a little bit more value out of my hand. 7 at the Jinbei to play Law, and then probably it's better here to definitely go bounce Sengoku, bounce his Teach. But here I think is also just another mistake, bouncing my Law to bounce his Teach. If I had one more character on board here, it makes the board state a little bit more awkward for him, especially because the Teach is off board. So now I only have 2 characters, and he has 2 swings at my one of my rested characters. And then if he has a Bounce Law in hand, so he can use the Bounce Law to bounce my last character, which kind of seems bad, but in this case, like, it leaves him with full board control, and I only have my leader swing to work with into his rested bodies. So if I had left a Law on board there, then I would have 3 bodies, and if I counter to defend my rested body from 2 swings, depending on how large they are, then he can't bounce both my bodies with the amount of Dawn he has, and especially if he wants to make good swings. So kind of a misplay here on my end. So let's skip forward. He goes 7 at my Jinbei. Think about it a little bit. I just end up not being able to rationalizing to myself that I can't defend 2 7s at it, which is fair. 2 7s at the body is not great. He has a second Moria, so he grabs the Jinbei that I beat over, and is just gonna do it again. I'm just kind of like stuck in a loop of like killing Jinbei and him just getting more value. Thinks about what he's placing on top with Teach effect. And then he goes 7 at lead, paying 1, playing Jinbei to play Law over his Sengoku. Law bounces itself to bounce Teach, fair enough. And then here, I'm countering to stay at 3 life because I know it's a little bit hard to get board control here. Or it can be a little bit hard to get board control here, and I don't want to make it so he can race me. Maybe it was worth taking to go down to 2 life, but 7 at Moria, it dies, so in retrospect maybe it would have been better to take the life since it died so easily. 2 to play Teach, 4 to play Law bounce Sengoku to bounce his Teach. Just bouncing and bouncing this Teach that will never stay on board. Paying 1 to play Sengoku, looking for just another value of play. Likely just grabbing a 2K here since I don't really need to pick up. I guess pick up another Jinbei is fine for later. Teach effect. Playing Jinbei to play Boa, going 8 at the body. And then setting my top 3. Kind of an interesting top 3. I definitely want to have Law. Since my one bounce Law is stuck on board, having another Law here is very good for later, for these turns after, so I can bounce his board if he doesn't have a good way to get board control here from my board of 5 bodies. I remember now thinking, like, this stack, I kind of thought about it, like, if he ends up bouncing my Teach again, I actually don't want the Law on top, I want the Law on the bottom, because it just lines up a little bit better, because if he bounces my Teach, he's likely also have figured out a way to bounce my Boa as well. So if my Boa is bounced, then I can still make a 7k swing while using leader effect blind, and then I don't have to rely on Teach. And plus my hand doesn't really have things I want to play with Teach now. It's unless like the Law on board gets bounced back to my hand and the Boa gets bounced back to my hand, for example. Playing Teach playing Law. Or putting Law on top of the deck. And then just thinking about his swing. So 7. Thinking about where. At Jinbei, paying 1 for leader effects. Playing Law. Law bounce Moria. And so what happens here is that we realize that Kevin has 3 Dawn left, so he's swinging 8k. And so we're just talking the play over and saying that he should just swing 8k with the Moria first, and then it's unlikely that I'll block 2k, 1k, and I'll likely just let the body go at 8. And so then he can still do the play where he bounces with Law after the Moria has swung, and so he can use the bounce Law to bounce Moria and have a Moria later. So then so we're just rewinding the play here, and so you'll see that the play looks a little bit better like this. 8k with Moria, and then 7 with lead, playing Jinbei. Jinbei will play Law. Law will bounce the Moria to his hand, which is, as we've seen, very good here because I keep needing to try and establish control of this board. And so like it'll let him grab the Jinbei again if I swing at it, right? So I'm thinking about what I need here. Because the board's all 5ks and his hand's about 4 cards in hand, I'm thinking like I can counter here, knowing the bounce Law is in my hand, I can get a little bit of value, or not in my hand, in my top deck, I can get a little bit of value here. So counter this to try and use it as a foothold for board control here, right? Making sure that that this Jinbei will die, like it will die over 2 swings, right? If I only had like 1 7k swing, for example, it's not guaranteed that it'll die. So 7 here at this Jinbei. 7 at lead, paying 1, playing my Law, and using this to bounce the Jinbei probably to try and get it standing. Or I can bounce the Law to... Oh, I'm thinking about my bounce targets as well. Like, the Teach at this point in the game is not super valuable. I don't really want to bounce his Moria or his Law. The 7 ends up hitting a Gravity Blade trigger, but I don't think it's actually like super important that that happened. Here I finally see a Moria, so I can rebuild a little bit of value, like pairing my Moria with Bounce Law. Bouncing my Jinbei to probably. I'm just kind of complaining like, oh man, what do I do? Everything's so bad, so I don't really want to give him the Bounce Law in hand, so I just bounce the Moria. But from here, 7 at lead with Law, giving him 2k, 1k, knowing that I can grab the Jinbei back with my Moria and my Teach on board, right? And then he goes 8 lead paying 1, playing the card on top of his deck, playing Law, bouncing his Law to bounce my Teach. Oh, it's so painful for me here, honestly, looking at it. So, here, paying 2 to put the Teach on board likely. Yep, I drew a Jozu for turn, so like 6, and his Jinbei, again still fighting for board control because it's not possible to race him here. Then playing the Jozu, hoping that the Jozu will get me out of this loop. Again, having a hard time choosing targets to bounce. But thinking about it here, I can get both targets off board by bouncing the Law and then using the Teach to play Law. So I use Jozu to bounce my Law, bounce his Law, and then go 7 at lead, paying 1 to play Law, bouncing Sengoku to bounce his. Moria is just such a bad target here, knowing that he's Jinbei in his trash, but it's likely that his Teach gets bounced here. Yep. So leaving it on board, but now I have this Jozu body here that's good to work with. It'll likely stick unless he has a Gravity Blade or a Jozu back, but typically being the second player to Jozu, it doesn't work out well. It just really depends on the board state, but I think here it could work out for him very well. He actually has such a large grip of cards. 7 at the Law. Yep, I just don't have enough cards left to defend these. Sengoku searching. Grabbing. What's the grab here? Grabbing Gravity Blade? Okay. Oh no, yeah, he can't grab Gravity Blade because it's not a Warlord, so have to grab a different target. Grabbing him Mihawk 2K, fair. Oh, never mind. Grabbing Weevil. Draw more cards, always good. Two for Teach. Oh. Or for Moria to grab Jinbei. Two for Teach. Teach effect. Probably putting the Jinbei on top to play the Weevil. And then I'm just in the reverse situation where I need to deal with a 4-stack board. Yeah, so skip ahead a little bit. Using Teach effect, putting Jinbei on top, playing over Sengoku, playing his bounce Law, probably to bounce my Teach, sorry. Yeah, unfortunately I just don't feel good about the counter in my hand, so now I'm just in an interesting spot. 7 at the Moria. His hand actually just happens to be a bunch of 1Ks, right? If I remember correctly. No, 2-1. So then you counter for the Moria, and I Gravity Blade both his bodies to try and relieve some pressure. Playing Teach, and then using Teach to try and get a little bit of value, probably. 7 at Moria, paying 1. Moria to grab a 2K. Okay, Moria dies. And then here, it's a little bit scary because depending on how much of a read of my hand he has, like he could think about going for game because he should know that there's a boa in my hand that he had bounced earlier. So like there's only about 4 live cards, but it's a little bit scary to go for game, like especially if you don't have femur to buff to teach a little bit more. But it's okay as long as we can just get board control here, bouncing the teach, bouncing the Moria, or swinging over the Moria. Bouncing Jinbei. Oh yeah, so he went Jinbei play law, but like he decided that he wanted to bounce the Jinbei back instead. And then going 1 for Perona, looking at his stack, probably just setting up a solid draw. If we skip ahead a little bit, he goes Jinbei play Weevil, draw a new card, teach effect, going 7k, probably at this Moria, paying 1. Playing Boa to make it 8k. So a little bit of a misplay where he should have went Jinbei play Boa since it was in his hand, and then playing the Weevil off the top. Little bit interesting. So this gives me an opportunity here to go for lethal. It's a little bit hard, but he has 2 cards in hand, so it's kind of like my only play here rather than trying to deal with all the bodies on his board, right? So I'm just thinking, I ponder a little bit about how I would live. It would probably be like some combination of like Gravity Blade and a Bounce Law where I could make an argument that I live here, but instead, but like I don't have either the Gravity Blade or the Bounce Law in my hand if I remember correctly. So here I'm just thinking about my numbers. In most cases here I split evenly as best I can, so I believe the number is 8, 8, 9. Or, oh no, it's 8, 9, 10. 8, 9 takes, and then I go 10, and then yeah, his 4-card hand just doesn't have it. So yeah, he probably wins this if he puts the if he plays the Boa standing, because I just didn't have a way to kill it. And we're talking about it in retrospect that he just played it a little bit risky for sure. But yeah, thanks guys if you made it to the end of this video. I'm just gonna call it here. Appreciate everyone for watching. Please like and subscribe, and you know, just give some feedback how it could be easier to review games or any specific matchups you want reviewed. Appreciate it.